recording. Okay, so I always ask first for you to give me a little bit of information about how many of my typing session videos you've seen before, so I know how much new questions to make.
I've only witnessed a few. I think it was a while ago.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That makes it easier than typing somebody who watches them regularly, let's say. Can you tell me about the difference between your 6th grade year and 7th grade year? Which one was better?
Well, let me see. I think my 6th grade year was better. I had more enthusiasm. I think I was 7th grade and 8th grade was the worst. I really was not very well liked by my peers. And the 6th grade, it felt more like an innocent time for me. So I just did better then, I think. And I put on quite a bit of weight between the 7th and 8th grade. So I kind of was isolated.
How much time do you spend in the status quo, like nowadays, thinking about past instances, either good or bad, from your personal history?
You mean about my life in general, or?
Yeah, for example, let's imagine a character named Julie who was left at the altar. Now, in one version of the story, Julie spends so much time going there after thinking back about that moment and resenting the person and have feelings defining her life. In instance 2, Julie sort of just goes, well, that was yesterday's experience. Tomorrow's experience is a new one, and I'm going to go make a new life now. So are you more like Julie number 1 or Julie number 2?
In general, I would say that I'm more like number 2. Although I can dwell on things sometimes, but usually I want to move forward.
Okay. So I'm going to describe a set of little vignettes, little set scenes. And I want you to then pardon me. I want you to then let me know what that brings to mind for you. So,
okay.
Here's an example vignette for you to start with. There's a mime in mime clothes, and he's sitting at a cafe, and he's sipping a small cup of coffee on a sidewalk table. That's it. What does that make?
Okay.
What does that bring to mind for you?
What does that bring? Oh, okay. To me, a mime. Okay, as you described, I'm thinking of Paris, France.
Okay.
Sort of for some reason I don't know why.
Sure, that's the natural thing to say. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
So I'm gonna give some of these that I give you are gonna sort of have an obvious answer like that one, and some of them are gonna be more confusing. Okay.
Okay.
So, what does it bring to mind when I describe a very still lake surface that's surrounded just by desert?
A very still lake surface surrounded by desert. I think that sort of to me it is sort of symbolic of the way that we sort of we miss certain things that could bring us happiness.
Okay.
And we see the desert instead of the lake.
Okay, cool. So now I'm going to ask you, instead of telling me what you associated with it or bring to mind in general, I'm going to ask you to try to link it to something in your own life. For example, if I were to say, a guy in line sighing because the lady in front of him is taking a long time, then I would say, well, that reminds me of the other day at the gas station when the lady was taking a long time in front of me when I went to go buy cigarettes. Okay, so the scene is someone dressed in a fancy suit and looking sad anyway.
Someone dressed in looking sad. Okay, and you want me to say what I think of when I think that?
No, well, in this instance, I'm saying, could you link that to an event in your own life? For example, that reminds me of Uncle Bob's funeral. When
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, I think that would remind me of a movie I watched recently, sort of a black and white movie. I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember. I don't remember the name of it. It reminds me of something that I watched, and it was about had to do with like a murderer. He was in a family, and he was like a serial killer.
and did he have a fancy suit on?
Yes.
Okay. So can you tell me what you think I'm asking these questions for, and what you think they're demonstrating? If you have any ideas about that, these particular kinds of questions that I'm asking right now.
I think you're trying. Is it divergent thinking versus like are we trying to pull things together and how they're connected?
No, well, sort of. I'm trying to distinguish between whether your default way of knowing is to link to your own personal experience from the past, or to link to some external universal. So what I thought was funny is when I asked you to link the sad man in a suit to something from your own personal experience, you still didn't link it to your own personal experience. You linked it to the experience of somebody in a movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, if I were to say there's somebody in an office, an eye doctor's office, and they are confused about something. Can you link that to your own life?
Can I link that to my own life? I suppose so. Yeah.
It's funny because the reason I'm laughing is because of the way that introverted intuition and introverted sensing in the front stack play out so differently. So, if I were to do some sort of association game, like I was trying to do there with you, with an SI person, and I were to say, okay, what does grapefruit remind you of? You'd probably possibly say something like Florida, but an SI person might say, oh, it reminds me of when I had breakfast with Mom the other day and she serves grapefruit. So far what I'm getting from you is much more the first kind and much less the second kind. Much less Grandma, I remember Grandma yesterday serving me grapefruit, and much more I associate grapefruit with Florida. Would you say that's accurate in my perception of your way of knowing?
I would say so.
Okay, so if I asked you to be a judge of a poetry contest in which the job of the poet is to sit down and write 5 4-line poems in 20 minutes. The job of the judge is to look at, there's 5 competitors, is to look at each of the competitors' stack of poems and say which competitor overall made the best amount of poetry with their opportunity. Now, would you rather be a judge of this contest, a competitor in the contest, and which do you think you'd be better at doing, being a judge or a competitor?
Well, I'd rather be a competitor. I would not like to be a judge. I would be overwhelmed with making a decision, I think.
Okay. Let's say 2 nations are at war, and whether or not they end up making peace with each other depends on whether or not you correctly judge this poetry contest. Now, regardless of whether you want the job, regardless of how stressed out it would make you, would you rather entrust the job to yourself or some randomly chosen other person?
So is this like a question about leadership role? I mean, would I like to be the leader?
I'm really trying to get to see how much faith you have in your own intuition about aesthetics. So in other
Okay.
words, if something important let's say there's 5 paintings submitted by 5 random artists, and there's general consensus amongst some board of people who supposedly know about art that painting 3 is the best one. Now, something very important rides on the fact that the representative of a group has to get this right. Do you think, like, you are more or less likely to get it right than a random representative from your group?
I usually believe that I have a better, yeah, I would say I might be better at it.
Okay. When you're in a group setting, and either at work or any other kind of group setting, family activity or whatever, do you feel as though, which of these statements are you more likely to affirm? Statement 1 is, I'm a team player. I'm not going to get fussy. I'm sure whatever you say I serve will be fine. Option 2 is, I don't care about those people's feelings. They can take care of themselves. I'm worried that, this thing satisfies me. Which of those 2 statements do you more identify with?
I usually waffle on the 2, but I have to go with what matters most to me. So I couldn't do anything that goes against my values or something like that.
Okay.
I guess it depends on what it is, but usually I will voice my opinion.
Okay. So, let's say you and a group of people are all playing the card game Go Fish. And you're like, is everybody having fun with this? And everyone's like, yeah, we're having a great time. But you personally think it's really boring, you're not having fun. Do you keep playing? Or do you say, well, I'm going to bow out?
I'm not really having, well, I don't know. I think I would keep playing.
Okay. Describe your relationships with goals, goal setting, and attaining goals.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I'm a singer and a songwriter. I've not been very successful at it. And all these years I sort of grasp at straws. I just go on hunches. I kind of think, well, I'll try this and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I'll try this. And I don't really have a clear vision. I just know I feel motivated by something. Like right now I'm back in school and for the first time in years, and I still don't really know what I want to do. I guess I want to be a minister, like a singing minister or something. And right now that's what I'm focused on, but it could change. I just sort of go with, my gut feeling about things.
Among your own songs that you've written, do you have a clear hierarchy? Like you think this is the best song I've written, this is the second best song I've written, or does that status change depending on your mood?
It changes a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on my mood. Yeah. I sort of sometimes I cringe at some of the stuff, and then I go, oh, I really like it, and then I like, oh no, I don't like that one, and I get frustrated. Like some things I recorded, I just say, well, no, that was not me at all, and I get frustrated because I feel like I misrepresented myself.
Interesting.
So I want to bury it under the yard.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you the invention question here, and what the invention question is I've come up with a new invention. And it combines 2 things. And I'm going to ask you to provide me with some snappy names that will help me market my new invention. Okay?
Okay.
And the invention is a beach umbrella that has built-in winter parkas that you can put on while they're still attached to the umbrella. So it's like you can, if you get cold, you can You don't have to worry about leaving your jacket anywhere, right? It's attached to the
Mm-hmm.
umbrella. But the only name I can come up with for it is beach umbrella with parkas attached, and marketing says that's not going to sell.
Mm-hmm. Well, immediately what comes to mind is Park Umbrella.
Park umbrella is a good name.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, can you come up with more?
Um, I don't know, an Umber Parka. Um, let's see. Parka umbrella. Um, I'm not sure. No, I would have to give it more thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though what's more satisfying for you,
Hmm.
or maybe I should say, what feels to you a more complete success? If you were to
Hmm.
write a song that a lot of people liked a lot and it got to be very popular,
Hmm.
but that you thought was kind of juvenile,
Hmm.
or a song that you think is absolutely brilliant that you're really happy with, but
Hmm.
everybody else doesn't really pay any attention to it.
I think the second one. Yeah.
You'd rather,
I'd rather be really good. Well, what I think is good quality than have something that I don't think is good and then it takes off.
okay.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel like you're a procrastinator?
Yes, I can be. Yes, definitely.
When it comes to death, are you more frightened by the idea of running out of time, in other
Hmm.
words, not being alive anymore, or
Hmm.
of death being painful?
I'm uh, more afraid of the dying process. I'm a Christian. I don't really think about that, but it's just the act. Dying alone is scary to me. Um,
Okay.
so.
Um, if I were to ask you, let's say I was interviewing you for a preacher job, and I
Mhm.
were to say, what are you more likely to bring to the table? Are you more likely to bring a clear single vision, or are you more likely to bring a lot of creative angles of new ways of looking at things that help open people's eyes?
Um, I would struggle with having a clear vision. I think I would look for new approaches to worship, things like that can improve.
Okay. What do you value more when they conflict? Fairness or kindness?
Um, well, I think kindness. Life isn't always fair, but kindness is pretty good.
What would you like to see more improvement in your own life regarding? Would it be effectiveness, in other words, getting from point A to D more smoothly with fewer
Mm-hmm.
problems?
Mm-hmm.
Or would it be consistency, having the right arguments for things, not making logical mistakes?
Um, well, let me see. I think the second one I tend to be inconsistent quite a bit,
Okay.
sort of scattered. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple of quote unquote TI questions, which are
Mm.
conditional logic style or deductive reasoning questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, if all frogs like Easter, and some people who like Easter, and some things who like Easter enjoy getting Easter baskets, can we conclude necessarily that some frogs enjoy getting Easter baskets?
Mm. Mm. Um, all frogs like Easter. Uh, well, let's see.
All frogs like Easter. Some things
Uh,
like Easter also like getting Easter baskets. Can we
mm-hmm.
conclude that some frogs must like getting Easter baskets?
I would say so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, how about this? Only Egyptians build pyramids. I've built a pyramid. Am I necessarily an Egyptian?
Only Egyptians built pyramids. Um, no, not really.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. So, what do you think is more important, impact or relevance? And what I mean by that is
Mhm.
amount of impact done or
Mhm.
precision of impact done.
Hmm. Mhm. Um. Okay. Are you talking about different what, like what, pertaining to life in general?
Well, let's say, okay, let's say you're a philanthropist.
Mhm.
Are you better off giving money to 12 different organizations, all of which do a little bit of good,
Mhm.
or one organization that does a lot of good?
I would say the one that does the most good. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Uh, do you think you know better right now how you feel or how I feel?
Um. Um. Hmm.
How do you feel right now?
How do I feel right now? Whoops. I feel a little bit hmm conflicted, I think. Um, Unsure of myself, I think.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
And
Yeah.
how do you think I feel?
Um, how do you feel in this very moment?
Yeah.
Uh, I think you feel probably I don't know, very attentive in getting consistency. I think you feel very just calm and reassured.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, can you have an experience that includes these two feelings at the same time?
Hmm.
And the two feelings are disappointment and um, anticipation.
Disappointment, anticipation. Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Have you ever felt those two things concurrently?
Mm, yes, I think so.
Would you say that if you experience disappointment and anticipation concurrently, that the
Mhm.
anticipation must be dread?
Mm, Anticipation must be dread. Not necessarily.
Okay.
Mm,
Do you often feel as though you experience more than one emotion at the same time?
More at the same. Uh, hmm. Um, you mean having conflicting emotions at the same
Not
time? Like,
necessarily conflicting,
okay,
but different. But
different.
more than one different emotion at the same time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm pretty comfortable with what your type is at this point.
Okay. I guess I can't share with you what I think I am, or what I've been typed before. I've been typed before, and I just could not see it for myself. So that's why I'm doing this
Okay.
again.
I suspect you've been typed as things such as um, INFP, possibly INTP, possibly ISTJ, and possibly what's the other one that you would be typed as? INFP, INTP, ISTJ. There was one more I was thinking that you would possibly be typed as normally, but no, is it not correct?
No, I was typed twice as ISFJ and actually they could not. Well, one waffled on it. They couldn't really. They said, "Oh, okay, now I changed my mind," so they couldn't determine. But I could not see myself
You
as
are not an
ISFP.
ISFJ.
Okay.
You are an ISFP.
Oh, ISFP. That makes sense. Yes.
You're an ISFP through and through.
Okay. Um, yeah, I always, well, I'll tell you that, whenever I take the online things, that I always score INFP, and I always thought I was an INFP, but I don't go, mm, I don't go as deep as they go or something. I feel like I'm more on the, more down to earth a little bit. But I love, my biggest drive is creativity. I
Right.
mean, that's my biggest, and I love aesthetics and beauty and all that sort of thing.
Well, I tell you what one of God's plans for me seems to be is to
Mm-hmm.
teach me about ISFPs. I have been
Mm-hmm.
typing a lot of ISFPs lately. There's something about personality type that makes it such that ISFPs trust me to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has to do with the third slot in I. It's an absolute value. You value the truth, the singular truth. That's
Mm-hmm.
the most important value for you that you're consciously, actively aware of. The other most important value for you that you're consciously, actively aware of is your own feelings and your own authentic resonance with something
Definitely.
personally.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's going to be more of an implicit value. So you're going to rarely find yourself in circumstances where your feelings don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But you're really going to feel accomplishment when you have and work with the singular truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, yeah, that was pretty good. I just I considered that before. I've always, every time I do this, that they say you're an ISFJ, and I just say no, that's not quite right. Um,
not nice.
but maybe I come across that way. You see, I think the mistake I make is that I tell people, well, I feel like I'm a traditionalist, but at the same time, I'm very forward thinking, and I know that sounds weird, but I love the aesthetics of the 1950s, but I
Me,
don't want to be stuck in a thing like that. But I feel like I like tradition in some ways.
me, you're
Um,
not making any mistakes during any of these processes. They
mhm.
are.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you being you is not responsible for them mistyping you.
Hmm.
It's because they're not looking at the right things. If you look at the actual cognitive processes and how your values work, and when I ask you, who do you know? How do you feel? How do I feel? Um, when you go to see how you feel, you check yourself and you tell me some answers. When I say, well, how do I feel? You think you reason about it.
Hmm.
Well,
So
you
what would
probably
so
feel, yeah.
INFP would be? Where would they
Well,
differ?
the difference would be in the extroverted intuition. So
Okay.
on that umbrella question, for example,
Hmm.
that's an extroverted intuition question. An INFP
Hmm.
would say the shade and snow, the Brello jacket. They
Hmm.
would come up with a lot of possible answers, and many of them wouldn't be very good. But it doesn't
Hmm.
matter because for an extroverted intuitor, we're about not the singular truth, but all the
Hmm.
things around it. We're sort of the negative space type.
Hmm.
So, for example, INFP would be able to make up a poem on the fly, such as
Hmm.
the painting there with apples and a cup is hanging now upon the wall behind you. I
Hmm.
saw it first when last I sat to sup and
Hmm.
ate 100 oranges and what rhymes with behind you?
Yeah. Hmm.
I'd have to come. I'm not. Sometimes it fails you, obviously, but that's what INFPs are more all about. So the thing that's confusing to people who are typing the two types, ISFP versus INFP, is INFP has this reputation of being creative and wanting to express themselves a lot.
Hmm.
ISFP has this reputation of being very physical and not interested in sort of the transcendent matters of aesthetics and faith and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
But that's a false distinction. The reality is ISFP is the most intuitive in my mind of the NIFI combo. The
Makes sense. Yeah.
the
Hmm.
other one that's equally intuitive would be INTJ, but they're intuitive about different stuff. So whereas ISFP is intuitive about aesthetics and about things like faith and transcendent matters. INTJ is intuitive about complex problems and solving things with with ordinality and causality and problem solving skills. Mm-hmm. So it's going to often be the case that ISFPs get mistyped as intuitives because they are, in fact, I think it's fair to say, the most intuitive of the sensors. The most.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
So
okay.
The other thing is, typically when I type ISFPs at around 40 minutes, they feel as though they've been filled up with words, and they need to remove themselves and process for a while. So if at any point before we get to an hour, you feel you'd like to stop and follow up instead with some questions, and I can make you a video to answer something, that's fine. Or if you'd like to continue for the full hour, that's fine. At this point, I will ask you to direct me as to things you'd like me to maybe explain further, or other thoughts, or whatever you want to do with the remaining time.
Okay. Well, I don't need a whole lot more time. I was just wondering. I think when people see, I think I'm a performer, so I have an online presence, and everybody. So I guess there are shadow functions, correct? So I come across, most people think I'm an ESFP. The way I come across is the former, style. And I think that's why I feel very misunderstood. And I think, but I was trying to narrow it down, for a long time, because INFP is just, there's something about it. I don't like their wishy-washy, wishy-washy.
All right, this is very useful for me, actually. To note, ISFPs probably perceive INFPs as wishy-washy. They are extraordinarily wishy-washy.
Yeah, and the odd part is, but on many levels, I relate so much to INFP, and that's why I was so confused. And now I'm, it's more clarifying to me to know, to see how it all plays out. But it just was, I really was frustrated for a long time. So anyway, I think, thanks a lot. This helps me see how it makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
I can see how things play out.
Cool.
So, do you recommend anything, as far as ISFPs go? I mean, is there anything I should read about that? What's a good thing that I should remember for my type?
Okay.
Career-wise and stuff?
I will share in the chat here a link to my book called Exciting Tables and Words About Human Personality. But what I will say is a better option really is I've got a video coming out tomorrow that answers a previous ISFP who asked to email me up some follow-up questions after having a chance to sit there and think about it for a while. I answered those questions in the video that's publishing tomorrow. And if you would like to similarly sit on it for a while, and then after you think of some questions, send me some questions, I will make a video as well about that. And in addition to that, let me just say I plan to, in the near upcoming future, make a video specifically about ISFPs that goes into some detail about them, because I've learned a lot about them recently, having had this string of ISFP typings. I think part of the reason why I get a lot of ISFPs to get me to type them is because if they are mistyped, they're never satisfied until they get the right type.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that was my biggest frustration, because if it doesn't feel like me, I can't resolve it.
Rachel, could you do me a favor and feed Trouble?
Sure.
He's standing there staring at me and making me feel bad. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's okay. So, one last question: Are they a pretty common type, in the population generally?
Okay, my answer to that is I really don't know, because I don't trust the typology stats as they are that were done by Myers and Briggs way back in the day. Those are the same stats everybody's still referencing, and they executed those stats on a college freshman psychology class, and I don't trust Myers-Briggs typings anyway. It's like I don't think they really knew what they were doing quite. So I don't really trust those stats. Around here, I can't tell because I attract certain kinds of types and don't attract others. I tend to attract ISFPs and INFJs, both because they value NI so much, and INTJs because I tend to present a singular vision of the truth regarding typology, you know? And it actually is correct too, so that helps. But so it's hard for me to tell from my own community. My own community, the most common types are probably INFJs that hang around. The most common type for me to type is probably ISFP. I also get some ENTJs. But I would suspect that the most common types in the general population, this is just a speculative guess, are STJs and SFJs.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I would think. Because, like, generally, I always feel kind of like an outsider. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that, I don't quite relate to in general. So, but that helps. All right. Well, that's all I needed to know. I feel better now. So,
all right. Cool.
Is this will you have a link to this, or is this?
I just linked. No. I will upload this to Google Drive and share it with you privately.
Okay, great.
And then if you decide at some point you'd like me to publish it, let me know and I will. If you don't tell me to do that, it'll stay unpublished forever.
Okay. Either way, I'm fine if you want to publish it.
Oh, you're fine with it? Okay, then cool. I'll just publish it.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Bye.